Hello, creative friends. I am so excited to do this video today, and let me tell you why. I finally finished this travel album that I have been working on for, I'm too embarrassed to say how long, many years. It was for a San Diego family trip in 2018, and I haven't been working on it steady since then. But as you can imagine, I started it within a year of the trip and did a little bit each year, put it down, did a little bit, put it down, did a little bit, put it down. And more recently, I had a design team project for Ellie's Studio because I'm on their design team this year. And I thought about this album because a lot of the product I had used over the past years were older Ellie Studio products. So I thought, hey, maybe the new stuff will work to do a couple spreads. It did. I'll show you those near the end. And when I had this album out, I realized it is close to being done. I was like, I'm powering through this and getting it done. It is a little bit chunky. It's a 1-week trip. In hindsight, I probably would have curtailed it back a little bit, but it's done. It's great. I'm very happy with it. So let me walk you through what I did. This is my title page. This here is an Allie Edwards digital stamp. A couple years ago, she had a physical stamp that was the whole US. She came out with the digitals, and I, through Photoshop, just kind of cut it in half. And then did a stitch line from where we live down to our trip in San Diego. I got this San Diego surfboard stamp while I was there, and I put the dates of our trip. I needed a backside issue for this, so I decided to do an itinerary and just do each day and what we did, just very basic bullet point type things of what we had done. This was originally my intro page. I put some 2x2 pictures that were not things I was going to scrap bigger, but they were just cute pictures, flowers, some birds. Did some sequins, cut up some paper, did the same thing on the back. A couple pictures that didn't make it into the main album. But like I said, this was going to be my main page, and I just didn't think it told enough. And then I think a couple years ago, I saw someone do something similar to this on Instagram, and it was so long ago, I can't say who it was or what I even saw. What made me think to do this? So here I've got, I believe these are older Ellie Studio cards. Just wrote what we did, had a internet picture of the hotel. Our first day there, we just explored the hotel. So these are more Ellie Studio cards. Our hotel had a pond with some rescued blind seals, so we visited them every day. The kids loved them. Then I started putting a little bit of Allie Edwards stories by the month in. I believe it was the 2018 kits. I mixed, I believe it was April of that year and July of that year had travel themed stuff, so I did that. This looks to be Ellie Studio to me. That's an Allie Edwards. This is probably just from my stash. Just talking about the hotel. We had a little kitchenette down by the pool. They had an arcade game the kids liked. Now, in hindsight, because this album got so chunky, I would have taken off the back of some of this chipboard. I did it on this one because I had finished that later in the project, but this I did earlier, a couple years ago, and I think if I had taken the back of all the chipboard off, it would have saved me some room in the album. So I just documented what we loved about the room. The kids loved the elevator. This looks like an Ellie Studio product. Then the next day was Easter. We went for spring break, and we ended up celebrating Easter at the hotel. These are Ellie Studio products, stamps, and then some physical products. Again, these are all much older products. I started making a kit in 2018 and then started adding to the kit over the years, but probably anything in here is 2018, 2019, maybe 2020, until I get to the very end and I'll show you some of the newer stuff. So anyway, the hotel had an Easter egg hunt for the kids. We then did an Easter brunch, more Ellie Studio products. These, might be Ellie Studio. This is Ellie Edwards. And just we relax, some relaxing pictures. 7 years later, my daughter still talks about the shrimp buffet. She loved that. And we did a little boat tour on the lake that was there. So then the next day we did SeaWorld. Now, before anyone comes at me in the comments about SeaWorld, I do now fully understand the controversy that is SeaWorld. I would not go again. However, we went here on this time and we did have a wonderful time there. So I will show you the pictures. We did have some professional pictures taken at the park. Let's see that. Sorry for that little shake there. This is, ooh, what product was this? This was a 12 by 12 collection kit. Older, kind of summery beach feel. And I cut out some fish for embellishments. I don't remember the brand. Here's another one of those chipboard. I wish I'd taken the back off. Dirty Hands, Happy Faces. This was a little fish pond where the fish ate the dead cells off your hands, and so the kids loved that. More professional photos. This was on the roller coaster ride. We loved the Manta roller coaster ride. The kids were younger, I think maybe late elementary school. And this, at the time, was a very scary roller coaster for them, but also very, very fun. This looks like Ellie Studio to me. Ellie Studio, Ellie Studio, Ellie Studio. More professional pictures of the roller coaster. And then in this album, I did some flip outs. This looks like it's a Becky Higgins. Actually, this is Becky Higgins 12 by 12. I must have cut this down and then folded it over. I did not know. This I had done years ago, so I did not remember doing that, but the spine here says 12 by 12. So this must have been a cut down, and then I creased it and did a fold over. What I also didn't say at the beginning, this album here is a Pleather Simple Stories album. They don't make them anymore. I loved these albums. I don't know why they don't make them anymore, but they were my favorite at the time. Okay, so then we've got just more random pictures in the park. I got some Ellie Studio product. This was a citrus twist. Did some sticker paper. These are Ellie Edwards embellishments. This was a dolphin exhibit, and my son got to pet the dolphin. Put a little bit of washi tape in my cluster of embellishments. And here is the Dolphin and Whale Show. This is where most of the controversy lies at SeaWorld, and I now fully understand that and agree with it, I guess I should say. They definitely have too small of enclosures. The show was spectacular. We did have a good time watching it, but we did educate ourselves afterwards, unfortunately afterwards, and learned a little bit about that. I wrote a little bit about what we learned about the captivity issues in my journaling there. But we did have fun, and it was spectacular what they were doing there. Some food that we found there that we loved, and then just some pictures of the other animals that we saw there. And then this was the same collection, that 12 by 12 collection kit that I cut down some of the paper and cut out fussy cut the fish out and made some embellishments there. And then just some random, my son was obsessed with wanting to play the games there, and then more animal pictures. So then the next day we did the USS Midway Museum. Now this was something wasn't originally on our itinerary. We all had a blast. My husband is sort of a military buff, really wanted to see the ship, and we were like, fine, that's okay, we can go for a few hours. We ended up staying the entire day. We all loved it. They kicked us out at closing time. The ship is so huge with so much to see. I really recommend it. I was really surprised how fun it was. This is kind of near the beginning. They had things for the kids like practicing your knot tying. The kids loved that. Things like this probably slowed us down going through the ship, because the kids just liked playing with some of these things, which is what made it great for a family adventure. This is Ellie Studio products. This day of the trip I did more recently, this year actually, but I did use a lot of my product that I had in the kit that I had made back in 2018. So now I think a big question that I always have when I am doing older projects is, do I use newer product or do I stick with the product from the beginning of the album for cohesiveness? And I think that's a really tough question. In this particular album, I mostly stuck with product that I had curated for a kit back in 2018, 2019. However, I know I pulled this card out of my stash more recently because I wanted a red, white, and blue theme. But that being said, I like to pull out a few newer products just so I'm excited to continue the album, but I try to make sure that they look and feel similar to what I have done earlier in this album. So it looks like it was all done at one time and not 7 years apart. This card was from my stash, but I believe the stamp and the embellishments and this little tab, that was all from a newer Ellie kit. I know the tab and the stamp for sure, what came out this year. But what's so great is look how well it goes, the look and the feel, because it's Ellie Studio and I used Ellie Studio back here, the look and feel goes great and looks cohesive. So I just pulled out some embellishments from my Ellie Studio stash that had the color palettes that I wanted. So kind of, you know, the teal and the blue on this particular spread. I believe the stamp is newer, so that was something that I pulled out new to go with some of the older things. And you can see how by using the same color palette, it all goes together. This was up on the top of the deck. They had some planes that people could sit in. The kids obviously loved that. That was a blast for them. Again, I pulled out red, white, and blue embellishments from previous Ellie Studio kits. Same thing here. I pulled out older red, white, and blue product. And then here are some of the professional photos from the museum that we took there. So that, if you're in San Diego, I highly recommend this museum. It was a lot of fun, especially for kids. And I am not a military buff, and I loved it. I loved the history. I loved walking through the narrow little hallways to get to bunks and different parts of the ship. It was really fun. So then our next day, what day now? I can go back to my itinerary. This would have been our day 5, San Diego Zoo. Another long day, super fun. Great zoo. We spent a lot of time, kind of open to close at the zoo. I was gonna say a group family photo, but the 3, I'm taking the photo. So then I got the kids and the husband in front of the sign. down here, I didn't have a 4x6 photo that I wanted to put. So what I did is I just took some random pictures of animals that I had taken, made them 2x2, and then these cards, this was a cut down 4x6 card that I also cut down into 2x2s to make a grid. I thought that came out really cute. This is a much older sticker set, and I did a fussy cut of some embellishments. For some of the animals, I had taken photos of the sign that said what they were, and so if it was an animal I wasn't familiar with, I tried to do some type in Photoshop so I would remember what kind of animal it was. I didn't do that all the time. So now, okay, so one of the highlights of the San Diego Zoo was the polar bear exhibit. I loved it, and so I had to do a 2-page spread. Now, when I got to the zoo portion of this album, it was very overwhelming. I had 400 pictures of just the zoo. Some of them were blurry. Some of them were behind fences, like the animals behind fences. Some, the animals don't move that fast, and so you take 5 pictures and they all sort of look the same, even though they're technically not. But I ended up doing this day last of the whole album. I'd actually done these later days before, and I just finished this day up this week. But I was really struggling with how to narrow down the photos. And a friend said, really, in 10 years, are you really going to care about the pictures of the animals? And I was like, that's a good point. No, in 10 years, what I want to see is I want to see my kids having fun. I want to see the animals that I was really impressed with, really excited to see. And then the rest, I'm just going to find what's a good picture, what came out as a good picture, and I'm going to print them small, which is what I ended up doing. So before I get there, I had a lot of polar bear pictures. I didn't want the whole album to be a bunch of polar bear pictures, so again, I made 2x2 pictures in Photoshop. I printed this out on a 6x8 canvas. These 3 squares were just white. And what I did is I cut down journaling cards in 2x2 to fill in the holes. And then this was a die and stamp set that I got as a free gift with an order I had placed. And I got it years ago. One of those, like, am I ever going to use a polar bear die? But I kept it. And then when I got to this spread this week, I went, oh my gosh, I have a polar bear die. I got to pull him out. So I used him. I'm so excited. We'll see if I ever use him again. But I love that. I love this spread. So I blew up some pictures that I thought were really cool of my family. This was obviously in front of the polar bear exhibit. This was one of those spreads where I did more, the animal pictures aren't great, or I didn't need them that big. Koala bear, that was really fun to see. This guy, what is he? He's a North Suwalsi babrisa. No idea what that is, but he was really interesting. And obviously a tiger, I didn't need to mark that. But I just put little 2x2s, but what I really focused on was the picture of us. We were on a gondola. And that's what I really want to see in 10 years, is pictures of us having fun. So I put more pictures of animals. Over here, pictures of us. I don't know if you remember, way back when Becky Higgins and Project Life was really popular, you can always tell her products from the rounded corners, but she had a zoo-themed kit. Like it was one of the mini pocket kits. And of course I had it. I had little kids. We went to the zoo all the time. And it was in my kit. Had it not been in my kit, I probably would have destashed it, but it was in my kit. I'm not a huge fan of the rounded corners, but I really wanted to use it for this project because it just fits so perfect. I mean, the little elephants with the elephant picture, wild, we're at the zoo. It was just perfect. So again, these are pictures of my kids having fun at the zoo. And I kind of journaled some of the stuff that we were looking at and we were doing. Again, I didn't need a whole 4x6 picture of the elephants. But what I did is made this, I believe it was 2.5 by maybe 1.5, and then put it on a journaling card because I didn't really have a lot to say, but we enjoyed seeing those animals, and it was a good picture. That's sort of why that one got picked. It was there was no fencing. It was actually a good picture. So again, pictures of my kids having fun. This rhino actually was significant to us. His name is Glenn, and he was at the San Diego Zoo. And shortly after our trip, he moved to the Seattle Zoo. And what makes it exciting is the exhibit at Woodland Park Zoo in Seattle is much better for him. It's huge. He's free roaming. He looked a little depressed there. I was a little sad for him. But I wrote about that he moved up to our area, and we've seen him in Seattle, and he looks to be having a much better time. Sloth, my daughter has always been obsessed with sloth, so we had to go see the sloth, and I just wrote that there. Now here we also got some professional photos at the zoo. They just take a picture of you and then plug in animals, obviously. This was an animal behind a fence, obviously, but it was leopard, I think it's a leopard, eating a huge hunk of meat. It was a little like, oh gosh. But here's another one of these flip outs. Now this one doesn't have anything on the spine, but I can tell it is not, it's got, oh no, I don't know what this was. It has some extra holes, but in a weird configuration. So I'm not really sure where I got that. I used to pick up page protectors at Tuesday morning when they had them on sale, and I'd get different brands, and I bet that's what this came from. But this is an Ellie Studio die, and then I used an Allie Edwards stamp set to do open, so people would know to open, and you can see all our professional photos that we had there. And then this was another highlight of the zoo, was the panda bear exhibit. We stood in line. We got a great picture of the girl panda. I think the boy panda was sleeping, and loved it. This was very, very old. It was a kit I had destashed. Oh gosh, jelly bean soup, I think. But before I destashed it, I saw the panda bears, and I knew that I had this album that wasn't finished, and so I threw them in the kit. And then I was like, when am I ever going to use these? I have to put them on the picture. And there was a boy and a girl panda, so it worked perfect. Just another blow up, another 6x8 of kind of a pretty picture with the family. I finished off this day with some 6x8 pictures that we had gotten. And then this is our last day. Photo, this time my husband took the photo, so I get to be in it, and just documented that we had such a long and fun day. I put this tab on because I wanted it to back this one, and I'll get to that in a second. This is brand new 2025 Ellie Studio product, but it's part of their travel kit from April. But this is what helped me get back into the album. I did this for an Ellie Studio design team in April of 2025. I think it has a very cohesive feel to some of these other pages. Now, granted, because it's a design team product, I did put more embellishing on it than I did in some of these other spreads where I just, did nothing. But it's all Ellie Studio. Ellie Studio has a lot of bright colors, so it goes with the same color palette from back here. By this time, I had learned, actually, these are really thin chipboard, so I did not take the backing off, but they're thin, so it worked out great. Did some stamping with the new stamp sets. Put some puffy hearts. I love Ellie Studio puffy hearts. And then this was the tab. This was a page about the local food that we were eating and how great the food was. So this is a newer spread. We did the zoo, about our food, and then our last day was going to the Belmont Park and the ocean. This is a new spread that I did in April of 2025, also Ellie Studio for the design team. Use their chipboard, puffy heart, stamp sets. There's some new tickets. I loved the tickets, the die cut tickets. I loved them in general, but I loved them for making embellishments for this park that we went to, which was, it worked perfect. Perfect theme. I loved the colors. It went great. Used some of the embellishments from the monthly kit, and then did extra stamping to put that all together. If you haven't been to San Diego, this is like an amusement park. You can kind of see the roller coaster back here. So there was a climbing wall, there were video games. The kids played on video games. They loved the climbing wall, snacks, and we just wandered around it. It was a lot of fun. So then I really wanted the kids to go put their feet in the ocean. So we walked on the boardwalk and then played on the beach for a little bit. Let's see, this was a new Ellie Studio stamp. I just needed a really simple journal card. And now I was getting like almost done with this album and I just wanted to finish it up. This was partially done years ago, but I kind of finished it up. I'm trying to think. I know that's Ellie Studio. That is an Allie Edwards. This and the paper, maybe Cartabella, old Cartabella, I think. Pictures of the beach. These were some Allie Edwards embellishments that were just in the kit that I had pulled out years ago. I kind of think actually it needs some embellishing down here to pull this together, but I don't think I'm going to do it because I'm just want to be done. But again, I would have ripped off some of the back of the embellishment there to make it thinner. This, I believe, is from the same Cartabella kit from this, but I love that it had a snow cone. And the kids loved their gigantic snow cones. And then we're at the end. I just have a nice picture of us, 3 of us at least, at the beach. And then I finished it up. These are our tickets to SeaWorld. I used a citrus twist. What are they called? Not Polaroid, but Instack page protector. And they fit the tickets for our SeaWorld perfectly. On the back, I put our entrance tickets to the zoo. I would have liked to put those closer up to where the actual days were, but because I could do a back-to-back, I just felt it just worked to put it in the back. And then I had saved a bag from the zoo, from the gift shop. And then what I did is I put a citrus twist, what are those called? The spine, the acetate with the holes so you can put it in your album. I forgot the technical name for that. Anyway, and then what I did is I just put random maps. I got 3 maps. This is hysterical, actually. This is the sugar packet, coffee sugar packet from the hotel, which you're thinking, why in the world would you save that? But it was made, the package was put together in Edmonds, Washington, which is where we live. So I was like, that is the most random thing to find in your hotel in California. Is there anything else in here? Nope. So that is my San Diego album. I am so glad it's done. It took, I don't want to say it took 7 years, but I mean, it did take 7 years from when we took the trip, but part of the issue with getting it done was narrowing down the photos. I think that was really the hardest part of a big trip, is narrowing down the photos and which ones do you want to use. And so when I do a trip like this again, I think I will just kind of be a little quicker with photo choices, make a decision, print them, be done with it. But I am very happy with how this all came out. I'm so excited it's done. I even put the spine label on, which for me, this is the thing I always forget, is putting the spine label on, but it is completely done. I hope you enjoyed that walkthrough. If you have any questions about how I put this together or products that I use, just leave them in the comments below. I'd love if you would like and subscribe to my channel. And I hope you have a great crafting day. I hope you get some older projects done. And we'll see you in the next video.